Hi, Michael here, and in this video journal I will start working on the necks for the three-piece walnut build and the rosewood build that I've been working on. This will be a multi-part series, and this will be part 1, starting on the necks. So keep watching. Well, it's time to start working on the neck for my builds I've been working on. And I have a neck blank here that I've made, and I've shown how I made these in a previous video journal. I will leave the link for that down below. You might want to watch that. But once I have my neck blanks ready, I'm ready to do the first step, which is to apply the peghead overlay. Now I've already applied the peghead overlay on the one for the rosewood. That's this one here. And I'll show you how I do that. One of the things I need to keep in mind though is because my necks have a volute on them, I need to be careful where I place my peghead overlay so that my volute doesn't come back too far into the neck to compromise playing positions. Now the final thickness of my peghead needs to be 9/16 of an inch. This is oversized here now, so I can have a choice of either taking some off the back side or some off the front side. If I take some off of the front side, I'm narrowing the length of my neck this way because I'm removing this much of material. Now this is the peghead overlay that's going to be going on this build. It's 1/8 of an inch thick. Here's 1/8 of an inch thick peghead overlay that I've tapered to match the 15-degree angle of my neck. And one thing that we can notice is when I place this on here that the length of my neck has now extended. Instead of the break angle of the peghead being right here, the break angle is now back here. So I've in essence made my neck a little bit longer. Now what that's going to do for me is if I glue this peghead on here now like it is, that means that my nut location is going to be right about in here somewhere. When I prepare and glue this peghead on, I know that after I trim this down, I'm going to get about 1/2 of an inch added to the length of my neck. Now, if I wanted to move the relationship between where my volute is and where the end of the neck or where the nut is going to be, if I wanted to bring this back a little bit, I could plane down the top of my peghead so that it's right about here where the nut would sit, which would put the volute just behind the nut, which I think I need to do. So I need to take a little bit more off the top of this peghead to get it ready. In order to position my peghead overlay such that when I level it out and add about 1/2 inch to my fingerboard length, it'll put my nut where I want it to be in relation to the volute on the back. I've determined that I need to come down off the top of my peghead by almost 1/8 of an inch. This is 1/8 of an inch peghead overlay that I have tapered to the 15-degree angle. So when I slide it on here, I can see how much neck I'm going to gain, about 1/2 of an inch. So my nut's going to be about here, which will put my volute just behind my hand while I'm playing. So that's where I want it to be. Well, I have my peghead thinned down to where I need it to be, and I've trimmed the excess off of my peghead overlay, and it's time to glue it on. Now I'm going to use a clamping caul on this overlay, and I've already marked my little blue holes where I'm going to use to drill through to put in some positioning pins. And I just need to place it on here where it's going to live. I'm actually going to use a toothpick to help clamp or help hold the peghead in the proper location while I glue it up so it doesn't swim around. And those toothpicks require a hole that's a number 44 number to drill bit. Remove my clamps. And apply some glue. And just take my toothpicks and stick them through those holes a little ways, pointy end down, and then position them back over their holes. Making sure, of course, that my center lines are where they need to be. And I do have a clamping caul from the bottom side as well, so I'm just going to put this on here. And now I can start applying some clamps. All right, once that's dry, I can go ahead and level off this overhang here. Well, the peghead overlay is dry now, so I can go ahead and remove all these clamps. Now I have this overhang right here that I need to plane down to the same plane as the fingerboard. And just plane this down. Well, I've gotten the peghead overlay trimmed down, and it's on the same plane as the fingerboard portion of the neck. And I've gained almost a ½ inch to the length of the neck, which moves my nut forward about ½ inch, which puts my nut just in front of my volute, which is what I want. Well, with my peghead overlay glued on, I want to go ahead and trim the thickness of my peghead down to around 9/16 of an inch. So I've marked a line just a little oversized on that, and I'm just going to cut it off here on the bandsaw. Well, the neck blank is ready for the next step, and that is going to be go ahead and mark out my locations that I can start trimming it down a little bit. So I've marked where my nut's going to be, so that's going to be take up 1/4 inch here at the top of the neck. And then I need to mark my 14th fret location. And one of the easiest ways to do that is just to go ahead and use the fingerboard that I've got, line it up with where my nut will be, and then my 14th fret location is right here. So I just put a square on there and mark that, which I've already done. And then this is a mortise and tenon joint, so I'm going to allow 1 inch for my tenon, and go ahead and mark that as well, and then this will be cut off here later on. So actually I have done that for both of my neck blanks. The next thing for both of these neck blanks is going to be to go ahead and fine tune the peghead thickness to the 9/16 of an inch. So I've trimmed it down on the bandsaw, but I'm at 5/8, so I've got a little bit to come down, and then I need to refine the back of my volute right here where I've bandsawed it in. It's got a little rough area right here. I need to get this nice and smooth taper into the back of the neck on both of these. Well, I have a fence set up on my oscillating spindle sander, and I measured the distance between it and my fence to be slightly over the 9/16 of an inch that I need. Now I'm going to use this just to smooth everything down and to fine tune the bevel going up into my volute. Well, I've taken a small piece of mahogany and I've adjusted my fence till I'm right at that 9/16 of an inch on the fence here. Now I can go ahead and fine tune my peg heads. Peg head overlays on. The peg head itself is down to 9/16 of an inch, and I have marked my location of my 14th fret and then where the tenon is going to meet. So the 14th fret is here, and then I've added 1 more inch. I just need to trim the end of this neck blank so I can get on with the next process. I'm going to go ahead and trim down some of this excess here on my neck blank. I've measured about 17 millimeters down at the nut and about 19 or so millimeters down at the 9th fret, and drawn my line for the bottom of the neck, and then for my heel I've left about 1 inch at the bottom for that. So I'm just going to cut this excess off on the bandsaw. Well, I'll stop here on this video journal for the next part 1. Stay with me next time when I'll start cutting the truss rod slot and taking the neck on down through the stages of its production. If you like my content, well, you know what to do. And if you'd like to support the channel, there is a link down below where you can do that. Thank you all so much for watching.